Okay, so today I wanted to do a book review about a non-fiction book that I have really enjoyed recently. I did read, I got it for Christmas, so I did read it a couple of months ago, but it was one that I know that most people review fiction, so I thought I'm going to review a non-fiction, and it's Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And I thought it was good because it kind of ties my two things together in that I love writing and I love books, and this book is about the creative process and about not necessarily writing but just being creative and getting work out there. And I really enjoyed it, and I do love Elizabeth Gilbert. She obviously wrote Eat, Pray, Love, which was made into a movie with Julia Roberts in it. I haven't read the book and I haven't watched the movie, but I have obviously read Big Magic now, and I've listened to quite a few podcasts recently with Elizabeth Gilbert talking, and she is just lovely. I love her. She's so wise. She's very much like Cheryl Strayed, who I also love, in that she's just got such good advice, and whenever you've heard her speak, you kind of think, ah, what the fuck, I'm gonna make myself happy, and I just love that in a person. If a person can rub off you on that way, I think that they are awesome. So I love Elizabeth Gilbert. But anyway, Big Magic is about being creative and getting that work out into the world. And she talks about how she's attacked the creative process before and how sometimes it's not worked out and sometimes it has. And it really breaks down that, well, it does say beyond living beyond fear, and that's kind of what it is. Because I know as a writer myself, I was very scared putting my first book out there because I just did it myself. I edited it myself. There's probably so many mistakes in it, but it was really scary putting it out there, and I think reading this book kind of gave me the courage to do it and just put it out there anyway, even if people did kind of come back to me and go, that was rubbish. It's like, well, I did it. You write a book then, if you think you're so good. And that's kind of what that was. It's just, putting the finger up to anyone who's just like, that was rubbish. Because most of those people have not written a book. So you're better than them already. But there were some great anecdotes in here as well. There was two that really stood out to me that I really enjoyed reading about. There was one, she has this idea that ideas in the world are just out there for the taking, and they can hit you at any time, and you have to grab hold of them when they hit you, otherwise they could float away and become somebody else's idea. And that's why certain ideas take hold at the same time, and different people in different places in the world can have the same idea, and it's almost a race for the first person to get that out into the world, and they become almost like the winner. So she had this idea about a story that was set in the Amazon, and they were going to build a motorway or something through the Amazon, and she started writing it and then put the project down. And then she had a friend, Anne Patchett, who is a famous writer herself, and they became friends and were having conversations. And then Elizabeth Gilbert put the idea down about the Amazonian motorway and wrote something else. And when she came back to the story, she realised that the idea had almost died on her. It had just gone away. But later she was talking to Anne Patchett, and she was telling her about this story that had just died on her and she couldn't pick it back up. And she told her the basics of the story, and Anne Patchett was just blown away because she was like, I've actually just written that story. And almost exact, there were differences obviously, but the story was almost the same that Anne had got. And it was almost as if when they'd met that time, they'd come together and the idea had just jumped from one to the other, and it was amazing. And it could just be coincidence, and a lot of people will say, of course it's just coincidence, but I love the idea that these ideas just floating around all over the place, and we have to grab them, and if we waste it, it'll just go off and find somebody else. I love that idea. And then the other anecdote in there that I did love was about a man that she knew. I can't remember how he was related to her, and I can't be bothered to go through it and find it. But he was living in France or travelling, and he got invited to a party by some strangers that he didn't know. So they gave him the address, and it turned out it was like at this castle, and it was royalty that were there. So he decided to go along, and they told him that it was fancy dress. So he went along to this party, and when he arrived, everyone was dressed in like ball gowns, and they were all beautiful, like 16th century dress. And he didn't realise that that was the theme. He just thought it was just general fancy dress. So he turned up dressed as a lobster. And everyone, when he walked in, just stopped and just stared. But he owned it. He realised that he'd made a mistake, but just went in and was like, I'm the court lobster, so deal with it. And they loved him, and he danced away with them and had a great time. And there was a meaning to the story. The story was basically that you shouldn't be scared about being creative, and everyone loved him. You know, if you want to be different, be different. Be a lobster if you want to be a lobster. You know, if people want to laugh at you, they can laugh at you. But in the end, they actually loved him, so why not just be a lobster? But it's a really good book, and there's loads of other little anecdotes. There's something, because she's a memoirist, she's just so good at those little stories. And it really opened my eyes to not being scared about it, and to just, you know, be a bit more of a lobster. So yeah, I recommend you pick up the book. Bye.